Welcome to Worktapes. This is a podcast where we tear apart songs. Why was the song written? What's it about? What's the context and emotion behind it? Where were you at the time? What were you going through? How did certain lines come to you? What's the inspiration? How long did it take to write? I'm Brandon Carswell, and I'm fascinated with songwriting and how songs are built from the ground up. It's easy to hear a full production song on the radio and dismiss its origin story. I want to hear the rough draft of the song, or the worktape. I want to explore the very beginning of how songs that move us and make us move are born. Hello everyone, welcome to Worktapes. This is Brandon Carswell. I am joined by my friend Kylie Dailey. How's it going?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Kylie is a artist, songwriter, wife of Kevin Dailey, who's just a modern gentleman.
He really is.
He's such a charmer.
He's a delight.
He was in episode 45 of Worktapes, so make sure you go listen to that and you'll get even more insight on Kylie as well. Her life with Kevin, who's a composer, artist, writer, all of the things.
Yep.
He's absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And he's pretty good looking.
Yeah, he's a hunk.
I would say. Yeah. I was having trouble focusing on that episode.
Imagine my life. Good grief.
I can't.
Every morning.
Every morning. So shout out to Kevin.
Yeah.
I wish he could have come tonight. That would have been fun.
Me too.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Thank you so much for asking me. I feel very honored.
It's Christmas Eve.
Yep. Which I totally forgot.
Yeah. And we're just slamming. We're just working. Let's just kill it. Let's go ahead and let's jump in.
Cool.
Tell our listeners who you are.
Okay.
Where you come from.
Okay.
Why do you like music? What's the deal?
Yeah. My name is Kylie Dailey. I am from a little town in Georgia, Augusta, Georgia. And I grew up there and also Colorado, and then moved to Nashville when I was 18 years old, and I've been here ever since then.
Did you move here for music or?
Not really. I just met a lot of people from here, and I think it was kind of music, but I wasn't very ambitious or like focused. I just thought there's people that I like in this town and I want to be there. So
okay.
I moved here.
Did you grow up doing music?
Yeah, okay. I did a little bit. My dad played drums and I was around it in that way. And then we just, kind of classic, like just had a lot of music on in the house. And my dad bought me an electric guitar when I was like 13 years old, and I started writing songs on my karaoke machine, actually.
Whoa, yeah. 13, that's pretty early.
Yeah, it was kind of early. And then I didn't share them with anybody. Like, it was just my own little thing. And then I stopped making music for a while and just did it like as a hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you stop?
I think I'll tell you this. When I was a teenager, I had a boyfriend who was not very encouraging to me. And he told me he did not like girl singers, and I kind of just like shut down.
How old was he?
Oh, this is like 15.
Okay. He didn't like girl singers.
Yeah. I know. Isn't that so lame? But when you're a little 15-year-old girl, you're like, okay, well, I guess that means I should not make music.
Yeah.
So obviously now that's so dumb, but when I was a teenager, I was just like, oh,
does Kevin
cool.
like girl singers?
No, that's something it's been like a big issue in our relationship.
What a debacle to be married to someone who doesn't like girl singers.
It's like that tension that keeps us going, you know.
And you're a girl singer.
Yeah, I'm totally a girl singer. Anyway, so it took me a while to kind of like get through that, honestly. Like that was kind of one of those young experiences that I had to work through as a grown-up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I didn't start putting out music until COVID.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I know.
Hold on. You started writing songs at 13 years old.
Yeah.
Your dad got you a guitar.
Yep.
And 2 years later,
I got a bad boyfriend.
Some dude was like, I don't like girl singers, and you just hung it up.
Yeah, I just hung it up. I think I still wrote poetry like privately, you know, just
Did
for
you
myself.
want to do it though? Did you have like a...
No.
You didn't?
No, I was just like...
This is interesting because so many people move to Nashville to do music.
I know.
And are musical, much like yourself.
Right.
They start early, move here.
Yep. And they're like, this is what I want to do. I actually did want to move to Nashville to be a producer.
Okay.
So I had been in some recording settings with said boyfriend at the time.
Oh,
and
he was
yeah. So it was kind of that classic, totally.
Yeah.
And so I had been in the studio and
you were better than him. That's what it was.
I had no idea. I was just like, thought, you know, you're just like, think people are so cool. And I think I just was like, oh, that's for other people. But I did it, you know, as
What's
a hobby.
His name?
I'm not going to say his name. I will not. You know, he didn't know. He's just...
I know. I'm just messing.
But anyways, and yeah. And so I just wrote, like, at that time, it was just sort of like to process my life. Like I just wrote poetry, and I was always really into lyric, like as a kid in high school. And I didn't realize that was something unique about me. I just like did it. Yeah. Until I got older, and then I was like, oh, not everybody's like that. Some people don't even think about lyric.
Yeah. So when you say you're into lyric, you know, like a lot of kids are dreaming of being a rock star, being whatever. That wasn't your vibe. No,
not at all.
You didn't get that electric guitar and think stage and lights and
not even close.
Okay.
No, I was like obsessed with the writing, like the poetry part of it.
What do you think? Where do you think that obsession came from?
I don't really know. Like
did you read a lot? Or was it?
I think it came from having a lot of feelings that I was sort of disconnected from, and not knowing how to access them. And like somehow music was this art form that I would feel so much release from. Mm-hmm. I went to like a lot of loud rock shows growing up, like a lot of punk music and like warehouse shows and house shows that were just like savagely loud. Like just, I could never listen to that kind of music now without, like, in a safe way. It's like not good for your body, but also kind of good, like cathartic, you know, just like the release. And I think I was just so intrigued by that. Like I was just, how does this happen? This is magic that you can like feel this release from being around this kind of sound. Right. And so, yeah, it was just sort of a natural interest that just sort of grew. And then same with lyric of like saying something in such a different way that makes you have this, like takes you out of where you are and you're in a different place, or you're like, you're able to, it's like saying something in a way that feels so, like wild and unique to someone's experience, but then somehow you can relate to that, and it gives you like a story for your own life. Yeah. And I think that I had those experiences like in high school privately. Like I wasn't really like talking about them with other people, but I was having them, and then that's when I just started to like write a lot of poetry.
Do you think
secretly?
Do you think that the writing is the writing part the better experience for you than the performing part?
Oh, 100%. I didn't even know that was like, I don't know. This is my question to myself all the time. Like, I didn't even know that that I wanted to do music at all, like outside of just my own little like expression that I would do privately, until Kevin was working on a record with an artist named Marina Gellert, and he engineered, or I think he mixed her record. Maybe it's a record in 2012 called Old Light. She's this amazing bluegrass musician, and her album is really unique. Her voice is really unique, and it just sounded like pure soul, like pure expression of self and no hiding at all. It was like so bare. And that was the first time where I was like, I felt like I heard something where I was like, I want to do that. I don't know why, but like that's my North Star.
Yeah.
Like something I want to make. And then and around that time, like when Kevin and I first started dating, we've been married for a million years. It feels like we've been married for like 14 years now. But that's when I started meeting people who were like writers for their career instead of just like the classic like rock star who's like on stage or whatever, or like, you know, artists that's like performing and that's a part of it. I had never really met people who were just like, oh yeah, we're just writers. Like we're not, you know, in the light or whatever.
So what brought it out of you then? What was the thing? What was the thing you hadn't done? You said you hadn't thought about doing your own stuff.
Yeah. So, well, that's not entirely true. I kind of, when Kevin and I got together, you know, he was like, you got to do this. Like you got to.
So you showed him. You showed him.
I did. Yeah. And I had kind of started sharing. Like I played around with some friends and stuff and would sing with people and stuff like that. But I wasn't like trying to pursue an artist thing, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. I wasn't like, I'm going to be a Nashville artist and I'm going to go gig and like do this stuff. I just wasn't doing any of that.
It sounds exhausting.
I think it's so impressive people do it. I'm like,
it's impressive. It's exhausting.
It seems, I mean, I know you've done that. Like, I think it is so, yeah, it seems like the most exhausting thing I can imagine.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. I'm like, so impressive to me. Anyway, so over COVID, I've had like a million weird jobs. I'm like that's like a whole nother, it's a whole nother podcast of some of my weird jobs that I've had.
Okay.
Cause I moved here and, I never finished college or anything. So I just like showed up in different like entertainment industry roles. Like I was a PA. I worked in the Vanderbilt ER briefly.
Whoa.
I worked like, I did industrial sewing for a while. I've done a ton of weird random jobs. Anyways, one of my jobs was I was a booking agent for professional speakers for like a period of time. And during about 6 years, and over COVID, I like lost all my work, obviously, because everything got canceled. And Kevin was working with this record label in Sweden who were looking to sign some like new artists, especially like women artists. And so he was like, hey, we have these demos that like him and I had worked on music, but every time we did, we just like fought the whole time. Like it was not, we kind of stopped trying because it was just like very fraught anytime we tried to collaborate. And so he was like, what if we just like send them some of your demos and then see? And they were like, great. We love them. Make more.
And so you got to deal with them.
Yeah. I've been making music ever since then.
So that's what it was.
That's what it was. It was like.
That's a cool story. I mean, to go from having all these random jobs.
I know.
Into now you're forcibly pushed into it.
Totally forced into it.
I mean,
in a good way.
Yeah,
It has been so challenging in like all the ways you want, like all the scary ways that are pushing you outside of your comfort zone. And
right.
It's been very fulfilling work.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's interesting that it would happen that way, that COVID would, like, being locked out of your main income and then just being married to the right.
Exactly.
Obviously, you're married to the right guy to push you along and say, hey.
Totally.
This is what you should be doing.
I know. Yeah. And he's always just been like, well, I think also because I wasn't sharing outside of just my community, with some of the things I would make. And he was always like, from when we first got together, like, I really think this is in you. Like, I think this is something you would love to do. And I think, and turns out it is, of course. But I couldn't see it. It was like, I was blind to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And at this point, you've got kids and all the family things.
Mm-hmm.
Is it difficult to keep that vision alive?
Which vision?
The music one.
Yeah.
Balancing all of the other things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or is it just like, this is my job?
I think it is both. Like, I think that regardless of like what industry you're in, when you have kids, like, you set a time to go to work and you go to work. Doesn't matter what it is. Like, you go to work, you show up, and that's like, when music is your job, then that's what you do. Even if you're not feeling it or whatever, you just show up and you give it like the time and attention. And some days I'm like, oh, everything I made sounds terrible. And the next day I'm like, I love this idea. And it's sort of that spectrum of emotion. And yeah. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge in the same sense of like, going to work can be a challenge because some days you're just like, oh, I don't have it in me to, But I mean, it is a creative job, which is like very fun.
Can you pull from your family daily life? You can pull from that and put it in your art.
Yeah, I do that. And I also...
How do you do that? What's like a way?
Like how I pull from my family life?
Yeah, like how do you get inspiration from momming and being a wife and doing all of this stuff and then put that into your song? So it's not just like another breakup song or love song. It's something bigger than that. Not that there's anything wrong with those.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like I do feel like a part of my practice now, or like my work, is to like check in with myself, like almost in a just kind of consistently journal, write about, like, if I can write anything that feels authentic, I have to like be connected with myself, which is kind of work.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of way easier for me to just like numb out and just kind of like chill,
Yep.
So I think that that's a consistent thing that to get anything that feels that I can connect with, which I always want to be putting out music that feels totally like real and authentic. It feels like such a privilege to get to make art as a job that I'm like, I don't want to waste a minute of this on.
Right. Do you think you would still be doing it as maybe not as much, or maybe as passionately if it wasn't your job?
That's a good question. No.
That's a good, honest answer. Well, why not? Just scheduling, or?
I think so. I think I would. I think I would be less focused. I'm like a very creative, like I like to do a lot of things. I love to do pottery. I love to paint. I love to like interior design. I'm very interested in. And I love to learn new things. So I'm kind of, I don't have that like, this is my thing and I'm just going to hone in on this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if I didn't have it as my work, I would like
be scattered.
I would be scattered.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be like, I'm going to develop this specific skill. So I think it being my work is like, it makes me like, it's like discipline. It's like a discipline that I can focus on and develop in.
Totally.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
When you write with Kevin,
you
mentioned that you guys would fight before.
Yeah, we would just, and I mean, I say fight. I kind of just mean like,
I know what you mean.
Yeah. I don't mean like we're screaming at each other, but
sure.
we're like, easily offended at each other and
You didn't
snippy.
like my idea.
Oh, yeah. He'd be like, what do you think? I'd be like, or I'd wait a second to respond. He'd be like, I'll just delete it. It's fine. I'll just delete it. And then I'd be like singing so quiet because I was just so scared of, expressing. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was so scary. It's so intimate to share your voice and your poetry. It's so intimate.
Especially after you were told that, women.
Oh, I know. And I mean, that's like, you don't realize, because that's so dumb, right? Like when you say it out loud, you're like, what a stupid thing. But,
it is, but
when you're a kid, you don't realize.
It's not dumb for you to carry that, though.
Right.
Because the things that are told to us, even at older ages, it sticks.
Totally.
Whether it's good or bad. And then you feel like, well, I should just stop.
I know. And what's also wild is it's like, who knows if that even ever happened?
Right.
Like it could have just been how I felt. Like I could have heard it through my own insecurity and filtered. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and then I turned that into a thing. It's like, yeah. It's just.
Well, now that you've grown in your artistry and you've got people behind you doing this and helping you, and it's a job. Mm-hmm. I assume you feel more confident in it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Way more.
Because the stuff that you're doing now has, I like everything you've put out, but
Thank you.
But this is, you're at like a new maturity. Does that sound correct?
Oh yeah.
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 And so without that kind of like confidence, and because I remember seeing you and Kevin play at
we played at like
Sweetwater. Is that what it's called?
Springwater.
I always get it wrong.
A little bar.
I got it wrong with Kevin. I got it wrong with Carl.
It's just fine.
Carl, you played with Carl.
I know.
Anderson.
He's my like songwriter inspiration in every
good.
way.
He's on
insane.
This podcast too, but I forget what episode it was. It wasn't that far ago. So look up Carl Anderson, everyone.
Yeah.
He actually plays
so
a song.
good.
He's the only guest I've ever had. Took a guitar off the wall and played a song for us.
He's absolutely the best.
It was I wanted to keep hanging out with him.
He's amazing. I know. I'm like, when I first saw him play, he played a show with my friend Molly Pardon, and I don't think I had even met him at that time. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
I have never seen just someone so piercing with their poetry. Like his words, just the whole room was like completely silent. We were in the palm of his hand,
He's kind of like that just as a hang too.
Oh man. Yeah. He's
funny.
So
He's smart.
He's funny.
He's witty. And it's just like, and that night that I saw you, I'd never seen you play. I've seen Kevin do some stuff with Micah Talks and some other things throughout the years. But I was loving it. It was super stripped back. Though.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to say you were on like an electric or something.
Yeah, probably.
Which was super cool. And it was just you and Kevin, and I think Carl came for a few songs.
Yeah. That was kind of a weird show because I don't even remember. I think I was like, there was barely anybody there, first of all. It was like a weeknight or something, like a Tuesday or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was fun. Like we had fun, but
it was fun.
It was kind of a weird night.
Well, those smaller shows they're more intimate, and when your friends just come, you feel like I can relax a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
The difference about Nashville is a lot of your friends just happen to be either really good artists or great producers like Micah, and then you're like, oh, well,
you're like, oh, great. Now
can
I'm
we
feeling
just
even
do a
more
barbecue
pressure.
Instead? I just want to eat hamburgers with you. I don't want to.
I don't want you to
sing for
listen to anything that I'm doing. I know it.
It's how
so
it is.
real in Nashville.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I was going to ask you is being in this town.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like or ever struggled with the idea that you're not good enough or your stuff's not valuable enough.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because Nashville is just like this, it's just like so many amazing people that are just so talented.
Yeah.
And seemingly like they've got it figured out. They dialed it in and they're off to the races.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And the underlying question is, how do you deal with that? If that's something you have or do struggle with.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just like an ongoing struggle, but I think like I try to think that every person has something totally unique to share. And if you're not sharing it, then we don't get to see it. It's almost like if you believe that you have something to give to somebody else, you know, it totally changes your perspective of like what you're making versus like comparing yourself to everybody. It's just, you know, it's just no way to live, to just walk around and compare yourself to everyone else, because it feels terrible.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that whole thing of like staying on top of what you, at least for me, of kind of being like, okay, if I am feeling shitty, like what's going on? What idea was I, like, when did I pick up that feeling? Or was it like me comparing myself to this artist or whatever, you know, and trying to like hone in on that. Because I think if I like look at it and write about it, then I can move through it instead of just like tamping it down or whatever and like procrastinating.
And you kind of are
thinking about it, because it's easier to not think about it because it's painful to consider that, you know, what I'm making is shit.
Yeah. So how do you move into trusting yourself for that? Like there's so many nowadays, so many distractions that pull you away from trusting yourself. Like, you know, social media is probably number one. Yeah. Regardless of what town you're in. Yeah. Of being able to see and say, well, look at this person doing this. I can't do that. Totally. I can't get here, but you do have something to offer regardless of what you're looking at. That's 99% chance that it's not real. Yeah. So, you know. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, a thing I think about a lot is, you know, having kids. I think, I can't expect them to do anything I'm not doing. So that's a big thing for me. If I want my daughter to get up there and dance in front of her peers, then I have to do that. That's a good point. It's silly to think that she's going to believe me that encouragement if she doesn't see me doing that. So I'm not saying I'm going to dance, but I'm just saying, like, as an example, you know, I think that's one thing that helps me is kind of like, it's a reason to kind of push through what is freaking me out or is scaring me or whatever. And then, I mean, a lot of affirmations. I remember like when I was 15, one of my first jobs, I worked at a dry cleaners, and I was just in hours by myself in this dry cleaners in Colorado Springs. And there was this tape machine in there, and I pressed play on it one day, and whoever had been working there before me had like an affirmation tape. It was like, I am strong. I am confident. Yeah. Like, and I remember thinking, this is the most embarrassing thing I could imagine. Like, for some reason, my reaction was like, this is so cringe, you know? And now I'm like, that is the sauce. Yeah. Like, you have to just like tell yourself, like, no, I am great. Yeah. And, you know, I'm not saying like I'm the greatest. I'm just saying, like, you know, I have something to share, and all I can do is share it. And it's okay to be confident with what you're doing and like what you do. Totally. Yeah. That is okay. It's not being like, that's what I want my kids to be like. I'm going to be like, look, I drew this thing. Isn't it awesome? Yeah. And your kids are going to be like, not really. Yeah. Which is the like, greatest part about it. My kids will like not listen to any of my music. They're like, please, God, we don't want to hear another mix. Please. But when they say they like it, you're like, that means you've hit the jackpot. Yeah. They're usually pretty like
They give me a lot of critiques. They'll be like,
Kids are
I think
honest.
I think you need to turn the voice down, like your vocals down in like the bridge. Brave will be super
You're like,
in a good way.
Who do you think you are?
He's usually right.
Yeah.
He's usually right. Like, okay, let's take notes about that.
They're smart.
They're smart. Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah. But I think that helps me, like thinking about my kids and then just kind of believing, you know, if I don't believe about something I'm doing, then just like gaslighting myself into it or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
reading.
Whatever works. You have to trick yourself sometimes.
You kind of do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the less I pay attention, the better I feel about
That's cool.
my stuff.
The less you pay attention.
Other people.
Other people. Okay.
That sounds pretty.
So you just like don't listen to anything except your own music.
Yes. All the
You're
time.
like, this is the only thing I'm listening to. And
I
it's
haven't even
great.
listened to your song yet. It's just been, I was like, man, my stuff sounds really great. So.
No, say more about that.
No, I just mean paying less attention to all of the things, you know, like here's what you need to do in order to get here.
Okay.
Right? Like here's the steps you need to take.
Like turning it into like an equation or like if you
Right.
do X, Y, and Z, it will equal this thing.
Right.
Right.
I do want to be inspired by other people's story and
Totally.
art.
Yeah.
And that definitely happens. I don't think any artist is, I mean, every one of us is pulling from something else that we've heard or learned or seen or whatever. But if I dig too far into how they did it, then I start catching myself go, I can't do that. I can't do that part. I can't do what the Beatles did. I can't do what they don't have to be that big. I just can't do that. But that's the part that I don't know. We don't know how that is going to play out.
Right.
You can write a song and it get picked up in 20 years and it's just been sitting around for a while.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's everywhere.
Also, like, I don't know how you feel about this, but I think the more I'm writing, the more I feel like it's not even me in a way.
Okay.
Like I'm just not entirely, but that sounds sort of weird. But like, I guess I mean, like I'm writing and then my songs are out. And then it's like, I may not, you know, there's some songs where I'm like, I just love this song. Like I'm deeply connected with this song. It is extremely personal. And then some songs I'm like, I like this song, you know, and I like it. And then I put it out, you know, and then it's like, but for someone else, it's like really meaningful. And I think that's very mysterious.
It is.
And I think that takes the pressure off sometimes if you're not like in love with every single one of your ideas, because then it's like, well, maybe it's not for you. Maybe it's for somebody else.
That's a great point.
You know, and if you can kind of remove yourself from the equation and just believe in your ideas and give them like the dignity to finish them.
Yeah. So, and then
it might be for somebody else.
That's a whole different like offshoot conversation, which would be something like when you're trying to decide which songs to choose for a record.
Which is also mysterious.
It's
kind
so
of like,
weird.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I don't know which ones am I connecting with, but then it's like
for me, I like all of my songs.
Right.
Yeah. So obviously let's record all of them.
Totally.
But on the real, that's part of the thought is like, I don't know which ones to choose really. Like I know which ones I like more than others, I guess. So I guess
Same
I'll show
here.
the producer that.
Right. Same here.
And then if they don't love it, I'm like, oh, what's wrong with you?
Right.
This is a great song. Let's try to sell it, you know? And then
you're the problem.
Yeah. But the point is, sometimes I will go to the one that I least like and I will share that with the producer and see if they come back with hey, let's do that one. That one connected with me.
Totally.
And then or I will send it. I'm curious about what you do as an artist, but I have like maybe 5 people I'll send new songs to.
I do that too.
Okay. One of them is not fair because it's usually my mom.
Okay, and she's like,
she loves it. I love to hear it. Just send me everything. And then she's like,
is this one about me?
It'll be a fun song, and she'll be like, oh, that's sad. And I'm like, no, it's not sad. She's hearing it differently than I wrote it, but that's fine. But the one of those, maybe one or two of those people are not music people.
Oh, yeah. That's smart.
Which is hard to do because I want them to like all of it. And I know they're not going to like the one that I get as deep with. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So and you send them that speaking. One?
Yeah, I'll send them whatever.
Yeah.
I want to know, like, if I'm trying to use the right language here, but I want to know that if my, like, you know how musicians are just too critical about music.
Yeah.
And so I want to know that my normal friend isn't doing that.
Right.
So if they connect with that, it feels like, oh, this is the smart song to cut.
That makes sense.
Because maybe it'll have more mass appeal or
totally,
something.
For sure.
I don't know.
No, that's totally valid. I can see
you
that being
you
really
do that
helpful.
Though? You have like a handful of people that you send stuff to?
And I think I just get excited. I'm like, oh, I love this song. I send it to a few friends. And and they're all songwriters. So if they say they like it, I mean, I would love more like critical feedback, I think.
Yeah.
I do have some friends that will be like, give me a little,
Yeah. Maybe you should do this or that.
Yeah. Or like, they'll be like, I really like this one. Like maybe if I send them a few, they'll be like, this one is the one I really love or something.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, that means they hate all the other ones.
Right. That's what happens.
They're
weird. Like, hey, you should change this line to this
like,
line.
No, it's not really what they mean.
Take this word out.
I know.
Like, no, that's the word of the whole song.
And I guess that's what I mean when I'm talking about like when I'm finishing my thought in that way, I try to like go back and be like, that's not true. That's just what my brain told me in that moment.
Yeah.
They didn't say that.
Well, let's talk about Folded Hands.
Okay, cool.
This is a song that currently, as we record this, you have not released.
Yes.
By the time this comes out, it should be released or will be very soon.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and listen to the work tape, and then we'll talk about the work tape and talk about the song.
Folded hands, I could make this better if you wanted. I've never felt this place more haunted by what we had. One pull's gonna make this all unravel. How far could our love really travel? All that bad. We would believe in love like a last. So all those things out of heaven for us and a sip of that no stone. Oh, my daisy with a feeling pull me down the bloody pull only cry. Hold my hands, I'll never make love. I've never felt this place more haunted by what we had. You believe in love like a last.
This work tape is really fun. The reason I want to know how you started writing it, because I don't think you started writing it just like this, but I could be wrong. Because it kind of, as everyone just heard, intros with like drums,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're just singing.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you start writing it?
Okay.
What was your process and what got into this work tape drum loop kind of thing?
Yeah. The first 6 months of this year, or last year, this podcast, so 2024, I just had the incredible privilege of writing for a full length record. And so I really wanted to, I normally write just like on acoustic guitar, and I was like, I need to just change it up. And, so I started writing on GarageBand instead of just in my basement with my guitar.
Yeah.
And so this work tape is just like me finding a drum loop that wasn't so intolerable.
Yeah. And repetitious.
On GarageBand, and like playing a little, like I had a little MIDI keyboard, that I was just like tinkering around on. I mean, you can tell I'm like just messing around. And then, and that's like, so I just started it with those drums. I just was like bloop and just dropped them onto
how you started it.
That's just how I started it. And then
that's what you heard over it.
Yeah. And then I heard those chords, which are like, I think I did end up playing synth on the final track, but on that track, it sounds hilarious. Yeah. And then, I just like sang into a little mic at my desk.
That's so fun.
Yeah. And that's how I did most of this record. I did write a few songs on guitar, but I was trying to just challenge myself to make everything on GarageBand.
Right. Yeah.
Instead of just guitar.
Well, it's important, I think, to get versatile on how you write, because it starts
really
to get worn out and boring.
Totally.
Just to grab a guitar, even if you just grab a different guitar or an electric versus an acoustic or whatever.
100%. Yeah. Rotating the fields, as Joni Mitchell says.
Yeah. And
it helps a lot.
Did you already have lyrics ready?
No, I think every song's kind of different, like how I land with the lyric. But I think in this case, I was listening on the way over here to do this interview. And I think in this case, the only line I had was folded hands, only because I think I liked the way that sounded to say.
Yeah.
And then it was sort of like just piecing together the story. I think originally I had wanted to write about the whole thing of like, are you a believer in love that can last? I wanted to write something about the word believer, even though it has like a lot of religious connotation. I was during that time when I was reflecting, which is kind of ties into like our previous conversation, was thinking about how like what you're believing or what you're like focused on, you're kind of like manifesting in your life, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking about that, and I wanted to write about that in some way that didn't feel, I don't know.
Yeah.
Too like, that's just kind of what I was writing about, was like, how do I change what I'm focused on when my brain is like constantly going to something not helpful.
Right.
And so that's what sort of like, that's how the song started, but that's not really where it landed. But that's kind of how, like, that was the idea that sort of
it sounds like the song is about like an argument, or
it kind
just
of
not
is,
being seen, or kind of like somebody stonewalling the other one.
Yeah.
Like you could do something about this, but you're not. You're just sitting there.
Totally. Yeah. I love hearing what it sounds like too.
Yeah.
I think, it's whatever you're perceiving it as, I guess. But it's like, sometimes I'm like, it's a story, or it's like from my own experience, but I feel like that's a good, like, I like the question. I like asking questions.
Yeah.
I like it when lyrics ask questions, because then you can, your story, your own like life answers it.
Right.
However you.
My favorite line in the song is, I can hardly put my heart out when I'm looking over my shoulder, which is kind of, to me, speaking to the fight, right? Like I don't trust you.
Right.
Because you're not responsive. So how can I be vulnerable when I'm looking at you not doing anything?
Yep.
You know? Do you have a favorite lyric on this?
Yeah, I love that one on the song. I mean, that one stands out. I like that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think like, I think it ended up kind of being about, that like relationship and just like building trust with someone and all the questions you're asking yourself.
And this is clearly about the guy that doesn't like women.
Yeah, totally.
Songwriter.
Yeah, it's about him. No, I think it really could be like any relationship.
Yeah,
really.
Of course.
It's like it's very.
Well, that's the thing about
anybody.
This song is really, it connects that way because anybody who's been in a relationship or marriage longer than a day knows this vibe.
Yeah.
So it's really great. Let's the full production version is so friggin' cool. There's so many Kevinisms in it.
Yeah. Can I talk about who played on it?
Yes, all day. Kevin produced it, right?
Yes. Okay. So my husband, Kevin Dailey, produced this whole record, but he also produced this song. And the record is called Way Past Taken, and that's going to be another single that'll be out very soon. But we were able to record this track at Skinny Elephant with Dylan Aldridge, engineered. It's an amazing engineer, also producer. And I have a list here of everyone, so I make sure to not forget anybody. But Ben Kaufman played strings and guitar on this track. Kevin played bass and piano and probably some other synthy things. Dan Burns played drums and David Williford played woodwinds. I think there's sax and clarinet on this song. And it was really fun in the studio. And then obviously I'm singing. I think I played some synth, and we just like cut it live. So
Oh, really?
Yeah, we cut it like all together.
Oh, that's so fun.
It was really fun. And we kind of just like threw everything like at the wall, you know?
Yeah.
Just like, let's just.
How many times did you have to do one live to get it to where you wanted it?
Well, I don't even remember how many takes we did. Maybe like 4 or 5, maybe. Yeah. But then, you know, we still were stacking and like picking our favorite takes and things. So there's definitely still, you know, we're editing and
but mostly
and adding
live.
color. But a lot of this record was cut like that. So you do feel this sort of like energy that I feel like is unique to recording with a band.
100%. Cutting live is so much fun, and when you do it with, I mean, gosh, you're with Dan Burns.
I know.
What a freak!
Good.
Yeah,
he's so good.
He's so good.
All those guys. It was what's so neat about, I do feel like is unique to Nashville, is walking into a recording session with your song, and you know, the players haven't even ever heard the song, and they look at the chart. And they just jump in, and it's so good. It's like first thought. It's like you get to capture people's first thought, which I feel is really special, you know, in a recording setting. Yeah. And it's so impressive. I'm like, it's such a crazy honor.
Do you ever feel like you shouldn't even be there?
Oh, every time. I'm like, who is letting me in here? Who allowed this?
That's what I feel like.
Oh, it's like, it's wild. I'm like, how do I even know these freaks?
Right.
They're crazy, brilliant, and so expressive and so melodic. And like, it's a ball. Like we have so much fun in there. And so, this record was just like, it was like adult summer camp. We kept saying that. That sounds like like it's sexy, not in a sexy way.
Yeah, don't look that up.
Don't Google that. But we kept calling it summer camp, adult summer camp.
That's so funny.
Because it felt like that. We were just having so much fun. So yeah, that's how I just had to shout out all the contributors because they really made this song.
Of course.
Obviously, you can hear my demo, and obviously, you can hear.
Well, the demo is fun though. That's the whole thing about this show.
That's the basis of it. Yeah.
We want to hear like the rawness of where it was birthed. It's cool to me to hear that.
Yeah.
All right. So what I want you said you had a ton of weird jobs.
Oh yeah. You want to hear some of those?
I want to hear your worst job.
Oh, my worst
And
job.
your worst day at that job.
Oh, that's going to be sad though.
Oh. Well, can you make it funny?
I can try.
It can be sad. People don't want to be sad. It's Christmas. It's Christmas.
Okay, I'll tell you my worst day at one of my jobs. I still feel so bad about this.
Okay.
It's something I did that was really naughty. I worked for this very sweet man. His name's Michael. And I was a booking agent. He's actually an immigration attorney, and he had a booking agency, and as like a side hustle. And I worked for him, and we had a lot of fun. He was great. And I think there was one day I was working with another gal, and we were shit talking him. We were shit talking him, and I can't even remember. I think he had like taken a day off, and this man worked so many hours, and I think we were talking bad about him. And honestly, I can't even remember what it was that we said, but I think we were just like, oh, classic. He's going on vacation and da-da-da. Just like catty, like no reason to say this stuff. And he heard us.
Oh, no.
It was such a bad feeling. And he was so sweet about it. And he was like, pulled us aside. I was like, I've never been more ashamed in my life. I was like, and the thing that was the worst about it is he was like a great boss. Like I've had some shitty bosses. This guy was great. And anyways, shout out Michael. I'm so sorry. And
that's so funny.
It was bad. It was mean. And he was so sweet. And he was like, I heard what you said. That was very hurtful. If you have a problem, just talk to me about it. And I was like, I'll never forgive myself.
Yeah. I've done that before.
It's not even funny. My dark job stuff is like when I worked at the ER, there was some crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I worked as a PA for some celebrities, and I can't even talk about that. Crazy stories with that.
To sign NDAs for that?
Oh yeah, all of it. I can't say a word about it, but off air sometime.
Yeah, all day.
I'll tell you.
One time I accidentally. I was with my brother who's in this room with us.
Yeah.
And we were recording. He was recording music for me. Mm-hmm. And he was getting frustrated at something. I don't even know if he remembers this. And I texted my wife at the time. Mm-hmm. Sean's being such a jerk right now.
Oh, you texted him, didn't you?
Sean's being an asshole. and his phone dinged, and I was like, oh. And I just go, dude, I'm sorry. And he just looks at his phone, puts it down, and keeps working.
Oh man.
Didn't say a word.
The thing is, it's when it's someone that you're like, I would never want to hurt that person. That's what makes it like especially bad.
I'll call you an asshole behind your back.
I'll say it. Exactly.
But I don't want to do it to you.
I don't want to do it to you. Yeah.
That's so funny.
I'm trying to think of that's just like a time when I felt really bad, but I can try to come up with some crazy stories.
You're fine. If you have it, you have it.
That was the first thing that came to mind.
That's a good one.
That's when I felt real bad about it.
It's relatable. I think we've all done stuff like that.
What a terrible
Your stomach
feeling.
Drops and you're like, oh my gosh, who am I?
Why would I even? Why would I wouldn't even. And
but you know what? If he didn't hear you, you wouldn't have even thought about it.
Oh, no way. I would have totally forgotten.
You would have left that day and be like, screw that guy for taking his vacation.
I know. And the next day I would have been like, hi.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, what do you have coming up? I know we obviously have talked about you have this record coming out. So that's like the biggest thing, I assume.
Yeah.
You have any shows? So this is the end of the year. This is probably our last episode of the year. Do you have shows coming up?
I do. Yeah, I'm playing a show. I'm playing just a few songs at Malapalooza on January 4th. So it's probably past now. But I'm playing that. And then I have a record coming out at the end of February. And then I think something I'm really excited about is I actually get to work with Johnny Marr of the Smiths.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I can't believe it. So through my record label, he was looking to like mentor a few artists and he picked me.
Nice.
And so I get to go out to his studio.
How's that for
February.
Validation?
Unbelievable.
Right?
And I'm so excited and so nervous, of course. And
he believes in girl singers. He
likes girl singers, I guess.
What a guy.
I know. What a dumb thing, right?
It's so dumb.
I know. Yeah, so that's like my big news for sure. I'm trying to collect like any questions you've ever wanted to ask, you know. That's like an incredible guitarist and producer. So I'm so excited to work with him and then, I'm just making music. I'm like, cool. I'm making...
you do make a lot of music.
I'm making a lot. I'm working on another record next year.
You're making up for lost time.
I really am. I am. Turns out I needed to write some songs.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
So that's happening.
Last question.
Sure.
And then we'll be done.
Okay.
You can listen to one record for the first time as if you've never heard it before. What is it?
As if I've never heard it before.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wish I had come better prepared for this question.
That's not one to prepare for.
Yeah.
First thoughts.
Never heard it before. I really loved The Party. That Andy Schaaf record.
Okay. I don't know that.
Yeah, when I first heard that record, I was like,
we'll look it up.
What is this?
That's what we're looking for right there.
Yeah. And that was like, that came out a few years ago, but that's the first thing that came to mind. And
sure it was.
I've been listening to a lot of Anais Mitchell.
Oh, okay.
She's in a band called Bonnie Light Horseman.
Oh, I like these. I like these ones I don't know yet.
Yeah. And her stuff has been like blowing my mind. But yeah, record, like when I first heard a full record and was like, whoa, this is crazy.
You never considered Sandy Patty's Christmas album?
That's a runner-up for sure.
We had it on blast in here. So
yeah, I missed that.
It was on.
We should do that.
It's good.
Yeah, I'll get back to you about that. I don't know. There's just so many good ones.
There's so many.
How do you pick one?
You don't. You pick one and then
That's the one that came to mind. When I first heard that record, I was like, it's so unique.
Yeah, there's so many that are just life-changing, and it's not really a fair question, but
I know.
But there are records that you remember where you are and the feeling got when you were listening to it for a month straight or whatever.
Yep.
It's like a season of life.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kylie, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
We successfully made a podcast.
We did it. Thanks for listening to me talk.
Thanks for coming.
So much.
It's so fun.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me.
All right. Worktapes is produced by me, Brandon Carswell. This episode was filmed and edited by Sean Carswell. Don't forget to like and subscribe everywhere you listen to Worktapes.